Hello everyone, peopledud here, and welcome back for some more Phoenix Wright Attorney. So, in the last episode, we found out a lot of stuff. I'm gonna leave it at that, so that you people can go watch the previous episode if you haven't already. But in this episode, we will be continuing on with the final trial for the final case. So, without any further ado, let's get to it. This is the defendant lobby, alright. But there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Edgeworth! Knowing you've already figured it out. Hold on, I'm gonna turn down my computer volume because holy crap, that's loud. Anyway. There we go. Who the owner of 7777777 ID number is? Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt on this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True. Not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call a ruling on the defendant. 5 minutes after the trial starts, Lana will be found guilty. But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth. Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, Wright. This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. Court is now in session for the trial of Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant? Morning, folks! How's everyone doing? Hey, Hudgy, been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my own work. Oh, that's a good one! Don't think I can top that! If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is this proposal of yours? Lana, that is to say the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel that we should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. What is this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request, and I'll be finished. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. What? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No! Lana! You can't! Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana! Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you would please.
Well, the defendant certainly has a right to self-representation. The request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears that there is no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise.
This can't be happening.
It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant.
One moment, Your Honor.
Mr. Edgeworth!
The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature.
Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut,
I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant.
What?
Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy that you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal is struck behind the scenes.
Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy.
I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness.
Oh, to whom?
As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of the truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it.
Very well. The court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Mark my words.
Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Now then, witness, please say your name and occupation.
My name is Emma Skye. My occupation? I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator.
2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct?
Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though.
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time.
Mr. Edgeworth, please remember that this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant?
Yes, it most certainly is.
Well, okay then.
He sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial.
I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me. But I'll never forget what I saw that instant. man raised his knife in and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest.
It's a good thing you weren't harmed.
I passed out. I don't remember much.
That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder?
That will soon become apparent to you, Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence.
Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination.
Can you tell us about that?
Mr. Marshall turned dark. Just then, the lights went out.
The lights?
It was just about this time of the year. There was a terrible storm going on, and the lightning struck nearby.
So the electricity went out.
Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right?
Right, but just then, lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind.
I see.
I told the detective about what I saw then.
The detective?
Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case.
Detective Bruce Goodman. The victim. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago?
Yes, that was so scary about the trial.
And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw?
Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture.
A picture? Yeah, I think she mentioned that before.
Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough?
This picture the witness drew, I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture.
Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony?
Yes, Your Honor. I drew a picture of that scene once, but it seems to have been lost.
Actually, oh great. There. A picture is drawn on the back of the evidence list in magic marker. I got a very bad feeling about this. Mr. Edgeworth, this little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture, and yet you still insist on denying it. My God! And yet you still insist on denying its existence? Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that as much as the prosecutor for the case, I was not handed such a picture. That may well be. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold.
This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident.
Please turn it over, Your Honor.
Turn it over to... Ah! What is this?
Yes, what is that?
Hey, that's it. That's the picture I drew.
Indeed. 2 men appear to be wrestling here.
What is the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to the list.
Huh? These lists, they're different from each other.
What?
It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These 2 lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here, where they were torn apart from each other.
So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious about what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? What?
Order! Order! Who would have thought that the picture would have been drawn on the back of this list?
I was handed to Detective Goodman in the questioning room?
Wait a minute. If the list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor!
Are you alright, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head.
If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list.
Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth.
It's possible. Let's see.
Is something wrong?
Do you even have to ask? Sorry, Your Honor. There's something drawn on the back of my list. That is that thing.
That's that thing. That thing that was dancing in the evidence room.
Apparently, the head of criminal affairs used this for the blueprint. I guess he was out of scrap paper.
Very well. Witness, will you please testify about the picture that you drew 2 years ago?
Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor.
What's wrong with Emma? She seems to be thinking about something when she saw the picture. Well, then let's look at the picture. Huh. Okay.
This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were the shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw at that instant.
To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image into your mind.
Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw.
Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure what you drew exactly what you saw?
Of course, this is the exact scene.
It wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detectives? Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? No, of course not. I better watch out, or he might find some way to cut my salary.
I drew this picture before I heard anything about the detectives. So I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me.
Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture?
Huh? Oh, well... That's strange. She claims that this is exactly the scene that was imprinted in her mind. And yet, there's clearly a contradiction here. Did you draw this picture right after the incident?
I think I drew it 2 or 3 days later. At first I was in such a state of shock, I couldn't do anything.
During the time the detective team was reorganized, Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Sky. 2 or 3 days later, the memory should still have been fresh in her mind.
Excuse me, witness. But can you please tell us why this picture is painted in all black?
So at the time, you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who had come to your rescue?
No, I couldn't see him clearly. The lighting was so bright, I was knocked to the floor.
You were knocked to the floor?
Dark had a tight grip on me, but when Mr. Marshall jumped on him, I was knocked away. I turned around, and that's when the lightning flashed.
Poor Emma. I'm so glad she wasn't hurt. What happened after the lightning flashed? You mean you didn't see the actual murder take place?
No, I'm sorry.
The flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation understandably caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further? What? Hey, I'm not the bad guy here.
Anyway, this picture.
Oh, well, I'm gonna start for that one. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction.
What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday.
Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of the picture contradicts the autopsy report?
Oh my god, okay, touchscreen. The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see that its tip is broken.
In fact, you don't even have to look closely to see that.
But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? His tip is broken too.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body.
It was a conclusive piece of evidence that proved that Joe Dark was the murderer.
I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. Huh? Where could you possibly see the problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken.
Ah! What is the meaning of this?
Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there.
That's right. But what does this mean?
The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure that she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, Wright. All I'm saying is that this broken knife might be a piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Ugh!
Order! 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 Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted?
Your Honor, please allow me once again to go over the events that took place on the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there's a lie.
I'm not lying. The man really was holding a broken knife.
If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife.
What are the chances of there being two broken knives?
Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one? If the witness is adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error.
Mr. Wright.
In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife.
I assume then that you have some sort of information about this other broken knife. If so, please feel free to enlighten us.
The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here is the real murder weapon. The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Right here inside this picture. This is the picture of the war ceremony. Ugh!
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the war prosecutor marshal is holding.
That's a broken knife.
As we earlier concluded, the knife in the picture was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all the likelihood this award.
Order! Order! Order!
Neil Marshall was awarded the King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and a broken knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out the knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be! Oh, and why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors Award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising the knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh my goodness! But the prosecutor was the one who actually died.
That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions.
Wait! I remember now. I remember everything.
Witness?
Mr. Edgeworth,
What is it?
could you show me your evidence list again, please?
His list. The one with that picture scribbled on the back?
I knew it. This picture. I'm the one who drew it.
What? You drew that?
That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time, I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me.
Perhaps it would be best if we added this witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled in this guy?
Yes, Your Honor.
First the knife mix-up, and now the blue badger? This should get interesting.
When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and I rushed towards both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow.
This is certainly most unusual.
Try impossible! The head detective of criminal affairs didn't even design him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago.
Yes, well, the defense may now begin cross.
Stop! Please! Don't pursue this any further! Lana!
What is the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this! I've already confessed to my crime! Why can't you just leave it at that? Chief Prosecutor Sky. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back.
Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the witness. The defendant.
It seems we're finally getting to the core of this matter. His shadow? So, you mean you didn't actually see his face? With all its winning its smile and all?
That's right, but I still remember it. He had 3 creepy horns.
This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. This witness must be mistaken. That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think that she saw what she did. Oh? And I suppose you have an explanation. If so, by all means, please tell us what this shadow really was. What was it Emma saw when that lightning flashed? Who is this blue badger really? The blue badger hasn't even been dreamed up when Emma drew this picture. Yet she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the defense's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the blue badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room.
Mr. Wright!
In this room. Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? Please show us what this mystery blue badger looked like.
The mysterious blue badger was in fact this.
But that's... what exactly is that?
I believe this is some sort of jar.
But, Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the Blue Badger.
Indeed, it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint?
Our viewpoint.
I've got to show them the correct angle to... Well, is this a miracle or what? Yeah, first try. No one can possibly deny that this jar's resemblance to the Blue Badger. No, it can't be!
Order! Order! The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious Blue Badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this.
Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So that badger thing actually was just a jar. That doesn't change anything. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed? Very well then. Please tell us. What difference now? What's the difference now that we know that the witness saw this jar? Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. Not only that, but she saw it at the very specific angle. Knowing this, where could she have seen this jar?
Where?
The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on the shelf in the office of Damon Gant. But the body was found lying near the Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so himself. Yes, and it's these two facts revealed of what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room, in Chief Gant's office. Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, why would it have gone through the trouble? The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason.
Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright?
I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said that she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying?
That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked onto the wall.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked into the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit?
The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous looking sword.
Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the prosecutor's award. No, Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes, there is another possibility of what actually transpired in that room.
Another possibility.
Of course, the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless, I don't know if I can go through with this.
Mr. Wright, what's the matter?
If events took place as the defense theorized, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming that the man Emma Sky knocked away was actually Neil Marshall,
You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? No!
I never imagined her testimony would lead to this.
So, it was a witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented.
What? What are you saying?
I'm sorry, Miss Sky, but given the circumstances,
Joe Dark.
Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How could you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? God, I cannot get her voice. Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it? I assure you, Miss Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall? Evidence? I'm willing to bet you don't.
Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence.
If you don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony. I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead. We certainly can't get the dead people to testify. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Touché, Miss Sky. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility?
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life. Somehow. That's impossible.
Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist?
I've got to think back to the court record. The real murderer's name that the victim may have left behind. This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister's a murderer? Do not be mistaken, Miss Sky. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we should seek. The truth. No matter how painful it may be.
Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased.
This is a message left by the deceased.
This is that blue badger from before, right?
Oh, is he just going to speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. A message was left here, on the surface of the jar.
What do you mean?
If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. It looks like some of the blood was wiped away. Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away.
Yes, there is a line here, drawn in blood.
So what you're saying is these dots were once lines? Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave a message behind. One that someone penny wiped away. The blood must have seeped into the jar, where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No.
Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us? Your Honor?
I believe these blood stains will reveal the answer. I've got to connect these dots to make the letters. There's only one thing the victim could have written, given the circumstances. The murderer's name. It's a defense attorney's duty to prove his client's innocence. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma. So, this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind.
Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life
Was Emma Skye.
Seaworthy, can't I say I didn't warn you?
Chief Gant.
Do you understand the implications of what you've done?
What? What are you talking about?
2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in that case, were you not? Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction.
But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That is undeniable.
I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know? We aren't defenders of justice.
What?
We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery. Ultimately, the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite that, anyone may say this fact cannot be denied.
What's going on at this prosecutor's office?
They might have sent the innocent man to death.
How can they just stand there like it wasn't his fault?
Order! Order! Order!
The gavel pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. Okay. So thank you guys so very much for watching this episode. If you like this video, hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date for more content on the channel and have regular updates, hit that subscribe button. And as always, guys, I'll see you guys in the next episode. So please take care, and as always, have yourself a wonderful day.